Mastering the Past. Hello everyone, and welcome. In this lesson, we are going to learn how to use two important past tenses, the past simple and the past continuous. We will learn the difference between them, how to form them, and, most importantly, when to use each one. So, let's begin. Past tense versus past continuous. Look at the two ideas on this slide. The past simple is like a snapshot. It tells us about an action that was completed in the past. For example, I visited my grandmother yesterday. The visit is finished. The past continuous, however, is like a video. It describes an action that was in progress at a particular time in the past. For example, I was visiting my grandmother at 6 o'clock. Here, we imagine the action happening over a period of time. So remember, past simple equals a completed action. Past continuous equals an action in progress. This simple picture can help you remember the difference. Forming the two tenses. Now let's look at how we form these two tenses. For the past simple, we normally use the past form of the verb, which we can call V2. For example, he climbed the mountain. The verb climb becomes climbed. For irregular verbs, the form changes differently. For example, he went to school. The verb go becomes went. Now look at the past continuous. We form it with was, or, were, plus the verb ending in I, N, G. For example, he was hiking when the others were taking photos. We use was, with, I, he, she, and it. We use were, with, you, we, and they. For example, I was studying, she was cooking, they were playing. So the basic formulas are past simple, V2, past continuous, was, or, were, plus verb, I, N, G. When we use the past simple, let's focus now on the past simple. We use the past simple for finished actions in the past. For example, I watched a movie last night. The action of watching the movie is finished. We can also use the past simple to describe a series of actions. For example, I woke up, had breakfast, and went to school. These are several completed actions that happened one after another. There are also some common time expressions that often help us identify the past simple. For example, yesterday, last week, last year, 2 days ago, and in the past. For example, we visited Kuwait Towers last week. Or, she called me 2 hours ago. So, when you see expressions such as yesterday, last, or ago, think about the past simple. When we use the past continuous. Now let's look at the past continuous. We use the past continuous when we want to describe an action that was happening at a particular time in the past. For example, at 8 o'clock last night, I was studying. The action was in progress at 8 o'clock. We can also use the past continuous when two actions were happening at the same time. For example, I was studying while my brother was watching television. Both actions were happening at the same time. Notice that we often use the words while and when with these structures. For example, I was studying while my brother was watching television. Both actions were happening at the same time. So remember, past continuous helps us show that an action was in progress, especially when we describe what was happening at a particular moment or what two people were doing at the same time. The interruption. Now we come to one of the most useful ways to use the past simple and past continuous together. This is called the interruption. Imagine that you are playing outside. The action of playing takes some time. Suddenly, something happens. For example, while they were playing outside, the lights went off. The action, were playing, was already in progress. Then a shorter action happened. The lights went off. So we have past continuous for the longer action in progress, and past simple for the shorter action that interrupts it. We can think of the structure like this. While plus past continuous plus past simple. For example, while I was sleeping, the phone rang. I was sleeping for a period of time. Then the phone rang and interrupted my sleep. Another example is, while we were walking, it started to rain. The walking was in progress. Then the rain started. This is an important pattern to remember. Longer action equals past continuous. Short interruption equals past simple. Comparing the two tenses. Let's compare the two tenses. The past simple describes completed past actions. Its basic form is verb in the past form, or V2. We use it for finished actions and a series of past actions. Common time expressions include last, ago, and yesterday. For example, I finished my homework yesterday. Now, the past continuous describes longer actions that were in progress. Its form is was, or were, plus verb, ing. We use it for simultaneous actions and interrupted actions. Common words include while and when. For example, I was doing my homework when my friend called. The homework was in progress. The phone call was the shorter action. So, ask yourself one simple question. Was the action finished, or was it in progress? That question can help you choose the correct tense. Knowledge check. Completed, or in progress. Now it's time to check your understanding. Let's look at the first sentence. She was cooking when the phone rang. Which action was in progress? That's right, she was cooking. It is past continuous because the cooking was already happening. Which action interrupted it? The phone rang. That is past simple because it is the shorter completed action. Now look at the second sentence. They visited the museum last Friday. The word last Friday tells us that the action happened at a finished time in the past. So we use the past simple. They visited the museum last Friday. Now look at, while we were walking, it started to rain. The walking was in progress, so we use past continuous. We're walking. The rain started suddenly, so we use past simple. Started. Finally, the students were talking while the teacher was writing on the board. Here, both actions were happening at the same time, so we use past continuous for both. We're talking and was writing. Excellent. The key is to look at the meaning of each action. The interruption test. Let's try another challenge. Look at the sentence. While they were playing outside, the lights went off. Which form is correct? Played or were playing? The correct answer is were playing. Why? Because playing was the longer action already in progress. Now look at the lights went off. The correct form is went, not were going. Why? Because this is the shorter completed action that interrupted the longer action. Let's try another example. I was writing my notes when the bell rang. The correct answer is was writing because writing was in progress. And rang because the bell rang suddenly and interrupted the action. One more example. She was reading when her sister called. The correct forms are was reading and called. Remember the pattern: long action, past continuous, short interruption, past simple. Application. Building context. Now let's use what we have learned to create our own sentences. Look at the model question. What were you doing when the alarm rang? This question uses both tenses. Were you doing is past continuous. It asks about an action that was already in progress. Rang is past simple. It describes the shorter action that happened during that time. For example, I could answer, I was sleeping, so the complete exchange could be, what were you doing when the alarm rang? I was sleeping. Now it is your turn. Think about a real or imaginary situation. What were you doing when something happened? For example, what were you doing when the teacher entered the classroom? You could say, I was talking to my friend. Or, I was doing my homework when my mother called me. Try creating your own interrupted story. First, think of a longer action. Then think of a short action that happened during it. For example, I was walking home when it started to rain. That is the blueprint. Past continuous plus past simple. Great work. Now you can use the past simple to talk about completed actions and the past continuous to describe actions that were in progress. Keep practicing, and remember, past simple is the snapshot. Past continuous is the video. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next lesson.